It's me, Alison. Happy Lammas. I'm so grateful to have you here. I am very excited about tomorrow's holiday. August 1st is the marking of Lughnasa or Lammas, depending on just whichever traditions you're talking about. But what I love most about Lughnasa or Lammas is that there's this like beautiful overlap, commingling, sharing of themes between like Christian, Catholic traditions and pagan Celtic traditions, which I always enjoy. I love seeing the similarities of the themes and how, kind of everything comes from the same source of truth, especially back when the calendars were more closely aligned with the agricultural cycles. It illuminates how much we have in common, our cultures have in common, and how much our values are the same, even if they look abundantly different. Usually like the seed, the kernel is very similar. But I did want to talk a little bit about Lughnasa and really just the traditions and how to celebrate. It's all inspiring today's flow. We're making a lot of like seed shapes. We're growing up from the earth, doing this sort of like root to rise practice because of this point on the wheel of the year being so sacred to the cycles of life and death. The harvest being this signal of things to come, like, we're harvesting all this grain. It means that we're going to have bread in the winter, which is obviously a very powerful knowing for a community. And also that in harvesting the grain, there's this promise of the seed for next year's harvest. So like the cycle will continue. Some fun little like practices from tradition are that it was unlucky to harvest your grain before August 1st. It meant that your previous year's supply didn't last you the whole way. So even if you were like just eating cabbage at this point, your community was just eating whatever you had left over from the previous harvest, you would not harvest that grain until Lammas. And it was a sunrise harvest. And the whole sort of day celebration was that you would harvest the grain in the morning, bring it home to all like the wives and the bakers, and then there would be fresh bread at night, ready for sharing, ready for celebrating. It was just obviously a great time to celebrate abundance. And also a great relief because of the heat of the summer and finally eating something delicious and maybe, again, not just like cabbage or whatever was hanging around from last season. But to get more into sort of this being the season of the goddess, Lammas, the goddess in her aspect as grain mother specifically, or Demeter, or corn mother. She goes by many names this time of year. But she represents the ripe corn of this year's harvest. And her daughter, Kor or Persephone, represents the grain and the seed which drops back deep into the dark earth, hidden throughout the winter, which reappears in the spring as new growth. This is the deep core meaning of Lammas and comes in different guises. The fullness and fulfillment of the present harvest already holds at its very heart the seed of all future harvests. And this also harkens back to what I want to just pull these things together, that a pregnant woman carrying her as of yet unborn daughter, so like that fetus inside is already carrying the ovary containing all the eggs of her daughter. Before a woman is born, she is already a mother and she is already a grandmother. She's already holding these sacred seeds of life for the next 2 generations. And then lastly, the word Lughnasa is named for the god Lugh, and he is more of like a Celtic deity. Seems like he's one of the most important figures. He's sort of like the god of the sun or the god of light and brightness. But as with most figures like this, it's sort of like evolved over time. And it also seems that he emerged as like a historical figure, a great warrior, more of like an Irish cultural hero. And he had prowesses in craftsmanship, especially with like crafting weapons, I guess. But that also evolved into just craftsmanship in general, which is why we see so much like crafting around this time. Ribbons, tying ribbons on things or embellishing your crafts with ribbons is a big theme as well, especially in the thematic colors of the season. Deep oranges, golds, greens, those ribbons being very relevant. And crafting like little corn dolls or anything out of corn husk or anything out of the grains, making beautiful centerpieces or like celebrational altars and adornments. That is a really big theme for this time of year, obviously, because any kind of like transformative action you can take with your hands, I think, is really at the key here. We're changing inedible grain into the stuff of life, bread and loaf mass, llamas. We are partnering with the earth to change dirt into food, you know? And I feel like that's just really a prevalent theme around this time. So some ways that you can celebrate tomorrow if you're looking to bring llamas into your home. Baking bread is obviously like a really big one, and it doesn't have to be anything intense. It seems like there's a lot of really quick breads that you could make using bicarbonate of soda, like Irish soda bread, and just putting like seeds and stuff in it or herbs or whatever you have. Making a beautiful altar in your home or just decorating maybe your table. And I get a lot of questions about how to decorate an altar. I think there's like a lot of pressure to use other indigenous traditions that don't always like resonate or are relevant to us because we don't have the same stuff. So I always think of it like looking around what's in season around you as sort of like these like recurring guests that come to see you once a year, and to sort of invite them into your home. So like whatever is really abundant in your garden, whatever trees are in bloom or flowers are in bloom. Traditionally, it's like sunflowers and calendula or like pot marigolds. Those are really beautiful to bring inside, or anything orange and yellow. Mint, corn. I feel like we have a lot of that around here. Zinnias would probably even be amazing if you wanted to get really colorful about it. So those are just some things you could do on your own, or just really any kind of crafting that makes you feel good. Crafting is so great. And I also found a movie that I have not seen yet, and I will send a link at the end of class. But it's a Meryl Streep movie that came out in 1998, and it's called Dancing at Lughnasa, and it's about like a poor Irish family, and it just looks lovely. It has kind of mediocre reviews, but I feel like it would be a fun watch, or at least an interesting watch. And yeah, I'll link to that at the end of class. But thank you for being here. Again, this is a time of coming together and celebrating. We're going to break bread with yoga, so to speak, start our day. So without further ado, I know that was a lot of talking, but I don't know. I feel like there's so much to share. You'll just need one blanket for class today. If you're using the playlist, you can start it up right now. We're going to begin in child's pose today on that blanket. So unfold your blanket maybe once to create a nice little padded square for you and your knees. So as you take your child's pose, allow the arms to relax back by your sides. And if that's uncomfortable, or if you want some support for your head, you can rest your head on your hands instead. But the object here is to be a little more compact than our usual extended child's pose. I want to mirror sort of like a seed shape, embodying all that potential for movement, all that for energy and growth. And letting the eyes close and the breath deepen. Imagine that you can feel the sun warming your back. nudging you awake, encouraging you to burst up, sprout from the soil. And now, as you breathe in, walk the hands to the thighs and rise up to sit on the knees. Give the shoulders a nice roll to the ears and then down the back. We'll do that a couple times just to, again, kind of invite in this like slow movement as if you were like a chick in an egg, like getting ready to peck out of your shell. And now on your breath in, rising up on the knees, sweep the arms up to the sky. And then as you exhale, child's pose, sweep the arms back, just bowing the forehead to the earth. Inhale, rise up, standing on the knees, reach the arms wide and overhead. Exhaling, fold into child's pose. Moving with your breath. Really try to tone the navel in as you reach up, feeling engaged, feeling super strong. Beautiful. Just a few more. If you feel confident to close the eyes, again, just to really drop in. This is also just from like a yogic or like seasonal perspective, there is this transition right now happening from fire to water. And in yin yoga, we understand that as sort of like the outer moving into the inner, the outer world into the inner world. Deepen that connection with the breath. Really hone into your body's experience in this moment. The next time you rise up, reach up, pausing here. And then open your arms wide. Step your right foot out to the side. So have the toes pointing forward, and the toes are gonna like sort of line up with the top of your knee. Getting ready for gate pose. Right hand to your right leg, reach your left arm up and over. Opening your heart. Imagine I'm behind you and I grab your ribs and I give you a little spiral up to the sky. As you exhale, cartwheel the left hand to earth, right arm to sky. Inhale, rise up to gate pose. Exhale, left hand down, modified side plank. Flow with your breath. There's going to be a lot of this today, a lot of breath-based movement. And then back to center. Bring your hands down to the earth. We're going to keep the legs the same and walk the hands a bit forward. So you're sort of in a tabletop with this right leg out to the side. For cat-cow, as you breathe in, belly drops, heart open, gaze forward. Nice stretch. Exhale, rounding the spine, chin to the chest. And with breath, we move. As you exhale, round the spine, pause, and then sink the hips back into child's pose, keeping this right leg out to the side. You can slide it back if that feels a little easier. And stack your hands, resting your head on top. Inhale, reverse, coming back up. Bring that knee in next to the other and sitting back on the heels in your kneeling position. A nice big roll the shoulders to the ears. And then down the back. Inhale, rise up on the knees, sweep your arms up to the sky. Exhale, child's pose, arms back, forehead perhaps taps the earth. Inhale, rolling up to rise. Inhale, rise up to the knees, arms to the sky. Open your arms wide and then step your left foot out, getting ready for gate pose. Left hand to your leg, right arm up and over. And I teach my gate, my Parigasana, with sort of a warrior 2 foot. I have seen it more with like a flexed foot. But for today, we're just going to have that foot nice and grounded up. Open your heart and start your modified side plank flow. Exhale, right hand to the earth, left arm to sky. Inhale, pull yourself up into gate pose. One more side plank before we rise up, arms to the sky. And then hands to the earth, coming into that gate variation of tabletop. Hands under shoulders. Inhale, cow belly. Tailbone lifts, heart lifts. Exhale, round the spine. Next, exhale, round and hold. And then sink back into your child's pose with your gate leg variation, supporting your head with your hands. Just enjoying the stretch, breathe into it. And let's rewind. Inhale, pressing up. Bringing your left knee in, we'll rise up to sit on the heels. Another roll of the shoulders. And then walking your hands forward, tuck the toes for your first downward facing dog. We're going to slide this blanket aside for now. And just give yourself a moment now, embracing stillness. We've burst open from our seed. Slowly walk the hands back to the feet and find a nice forward bend at the back of the mat, softening to the knees. Just go really limp, like a rag doll. Or perhaps this is a stretch, but maybe a corn husk that's going to become a corn doll. We're going to slowly roll up to standing. Keep the spine rounding, keep the knees soft. Think about stacking the spine again, like as if you're growing up out of the soil. Reach the arms up to the sky. Slowly breathing in. And then we'll bring hands to heart center. To stand tall. Bowing to the fingertips, relax your shoulders away from your ears. And then releasing the arms to your sides. Heel toe the big toes to touch. On your breath in, drop your seat and reach up for chair pose. Keep your hips nice and low, and then we're going to shift into the toes, lifting the heels. Keep your heels lifted. Inhale, standing up straight. Reaching tall, gazing forward. Keep your eyes steady. Exhale, heels to the mat and fold. Inhale, chair pose. Arms to the sky, weight in the heels. Exhale, lift your heels. Maybe going deeper into the knees. Inhale, standing up to rise. Exhale, heels to the mat, fold. Inhale, chair pose. Long low back. Exhale, lift your heels. Inhaling, rise up. Exhale, heels to the mat and fold. One more time, chair pose. Gather that belly in strong. Exhale, lift the heels. Sitting deeper. Inhale, rising up strong and tall. Exhale, heels to the mat and fold. Lifting your head halfway. Exhale, plank pose, and then lower down to the belly. Hands under shoulders. Let's squeeze the elbows back and in toward each other. Slide the shoulder blades away from your ears and press firm into the tops of the feet. Inhale, lifting your heart for cobra. A little snake energy, transformation energy. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower. Think about peeling up one rib at a time. Exhale, lower down. Inhale to tabletop. And exhale to child's pose. And stay in extended child's pose if you like this time. The arms reaching forward. And walk the arms over to the right for a bit of a side stretch. Relax your head down. You can keep the arms or the hands parallel with the shoulders, or you can stack the left hand on top for a little extra sensation. And then through center, over to the left, arms long, head resting. And then back to center with those arms. Walk them into, again, sit up on your heels. We're going to rise up to standing with the hands on the hips. And step your right foot all the way forward. We're coming into a low lunge. So if you'd like, just to kind of keep it nice today, you can pad your back knee with your blanket. And bring your hands to heart center. Find your shoulders over your hips. A nice stacking of the knee over the heel. Engaging the belly like so. And then twist to the right. Hook your elbow to the outside of your knee. And press the palms together, which allows you to sort of rotate your heart in a little bit more. It's this kneeling prayer twist. Gaze up to the sky, imagining that you can feel the sun on your face. That high summer sun. You can stay here or tucking the back toes, lift the back knee into a twisted crescent lunge. Keep hugging the thighs in toward each other. Supporting the root. Then inhale, look down and frame your front foot with your hands. We're going to bring the back knee forward to the outside of the right heel, getting ready for a seated twist. So again, that's the back knee, the left knee. Come forward, set it down to the outside of your right heel. And if you sit, voila, you're in a seated twist prep. So again, if you'd like, grab your blanket, place it underneath your seat for a little support and lift. Inhale your right arm up to the sky. Exhale, circling it back. Inhale your left arm to sky. And exhale, hook that elbow to the outside of the knee. Sitting up nice and tall. I do feel like the blanket just gives you a little bit more length in the spine. It's like easier to find the length. Gaze over your back shoulder to bring the twist into your neck. And then inhale, unravel, and take a counter twist to the other side. And then back to center. I'm going to scoot forward just a little, move my blanket out of the way. We're going to sweep the right leg behind us for pigeon pose. And here we are. Walking the hands to the outer edges of your mat, back towards you a little bit so you can prop yourself up, seated up nice and tall, heart lifting, gaze lifting to the sky. And if this is feeling a little sensitive, or if you want some support, grab your trusty blanket and you can fold it again to make a nice little support for underneath that right thigh, underneath that right hip. And we'll lower down the head on the hands. Relax the jaw. I had to put some deep hip work into this class, of course, because of the emphasis on creation and the cycles of life. Of course, that resonates in the womb area, in the hips area, the pelvic area. Just sort of diving in, creating some space, bringing awareness to those parts of the body. And also all the forward bending and the side bending that stimulates sort of the second and third chakras, our solar centers, our creative centers. Sink into those hips a little bit more. And then let us slowly walk the hands in, pressing up. If you use the blanket, just slide it out of the way for now. Getting ready for three-legged dog. Tuck your right toes and sweep your left leg all the way high and behind. Bend the knee, fan the hip open. You can flip your dog here if you're feeling it. You could do some big knee circles. And then we'll meet in our downward facing dog. Forward to plank pose. Exhale, lower to the belly. Untucking toes, cobra, peel your heart. Point your elbows back. Exhale to child's pose. Sinking hips back on the heels. Take a cleansing breath in. Releasing it all. Walk your hands in. Rise up to stand on the knees with the hands on the hips. Stepping your left foot forward. Reaching, if you'd want, for your blanket to pad underneath your back knee. Nice. We're going to rise up with hands at heart center. Tucking the chin in towards the throat. Feel a nice length in the back of your neck. Rising up. And then we twist to the left. Hook the elbow to the outside of your knee. Palms are pressing. Spiral your heart to the thumbs. And again, feel sort of the squaring of the hips. Not only that, but then this sort of like inward engagement between the thighs. Cradling, supporting, nurturing the root. Option to tuck the back toes and lift your back knee. You can gaze down if that helps with balance. Thighs in towards one another. Feel that. And then looking down, hands frame the front foot. Setting up for that seated twist. We're going to bring the back knee forward. Set it down to the outside of your heel. And maybe grab your blanket and place it underneath your seat. Lovely. Nice and tall. Feel both sits bones plugged in. A nice even distribution of weight in the seat. Tall spine. Left arm. Inhale your left arm all the way through the sky. Exhale, set it back. And inhale your right arm up. And hook it to the outside of your knee, coming into your twist. Of course, you can hug your knee if this is a little too intense. I combined the word arm and hand earlier, so that became ham. Wave your ham. Gaze over your back shoulder, gather your navel in. Inhale, unravel, take your counter bow. And then back to center. I'm going to scoot forward. And when you're ready, sweeping the left leg behind, coming into pigeon pose, or at least setting up with the legs. Make sure that left leg is straight behind you. You can even give it a little check. And if you'd like to grab your blanket and use it like a little wedge prop under your hip, your right hip. It's always nice. Surprisingly nice. Hands nice and wide. Inhale, lift. And exhale, fold. Stack your hands. Rest your head. Breathing in, walk your hands in, peeling your heart from the earth. Slide your blanket out of the way. Tucking left toes for three-legged dog. Send your right leg all the way up and back, bending the knee, fan the hip open. Option to stay here, to flip your dog, or give me some of those big hippie circles. Until you land back in your downward facing dog. On the breath in, plank pose. Exhale, lower down. Inhale for cobra, lifting your heart. Exhale back to child's pose. This will be our last child's pose for today. Nice deep breath in and then side out. Inhaling, rise up, crossing the ankles. We're going to come into a seated position with the knees bent and the feet flat on the floor. Beautiful. So bring those knees in nice and close, feet flat. I'm going to wrap the arms around the knees, giving yourself a nice squeeze. Inhale, get tall, and exhale, bow your head. I invite you to get as tight and compact as you can here without, stressing your spine or anything or feeling like you're overexerting. This is called farmer's pose. You can really hug the knees into the chest into the knees. Feel that. Inhale, lift your head. Walk your feet out a little bit, or you can scoot your seat back a little bit. Just sort of widening the space here underneath the legs. And I'll wrap the arms underneath the thighs. You can grab opposite elbows here for, again, just a modified forward bend. Take a breath in as you open your heart. And then exhale, bowing your head. And these forward bends, always a beautiful kind of like pratyahara kind of vibe to these poses. This act of withdrawing from the outside world to the inner world, which again is sort of a theme that begins to rise up around this time of year. In fact, I think in those like pagan cultures, this was sort of like the beginning of autumn. The sun was starting to die, the moon was starting to wake up as we start to shift into more seasons of darkness. Inhale, lift your head. We're gonna do our best to straighten the legs here and If your hamstrings are feeling really tight, or if you just want some support, again, sitting up on a blanket is beautiful for a forward fold support. Legs are nice and straight, feet are flexed. We're going to inhale the arms to sky. And exhale, heart is open as you fold forward. Option 2, grab your big toes with your peace fingers. Straightening the arms, you can lift your head, and as you exhale, folding heart to toes, the elbows are going to bend to the outsides of your legs. Or you could just fold in half, any amount. Breathing deep. Mm. And then lifting halfway, look forward. Exhale, rising up, place the hands behind you, fingertips forward. We're coming into upward plank or upward table, so you can adjust. You're coming into upward plank, firm the legs, point your toes forward, and lift your hips. Try to bring your toes to the earth, lift your heart, or you can have your knees bent here and press the earth away. Same action of opening your heart and throat to the sky. And exhale, lower. Slide your blanket all the way back. It's going to be a pillow for your head. Roll onto your back. Bring the knees into the chest. And we're going to take happy baby. Mm-hmm. And then releasing into Shavasana. Take a really full, deep breath in. And then allow it all to just float out. Deepening your breath. Bring your hands to your belly. Bring your soles of the feet together. Let your knees open wide. If you're feeling really good right now and just want to keep resting, just stay here. Otherwise, you close the knees, rolling to the right side. Resting on your blanket in the fetal position. And then with as little effort as possible, rise up to your seat. Mm. Bring our hands to heart center. Just taking a moment to feel. From the fields, through the stones, into fire, llama spread. As the wheel turns, may we all be fed. Blessed be. Let's bow to honor each other. Thank you for being here. Happy Lammas, happy Lughnasa. I love you so much. I can't even say it enough. Thank you for being on this journey with me, for walking through the wheel with me. We're really going to be focusing on the wheel of the year. There feels like there's a real hunger or craving or even just like a need to remember this stuff. You know, we can't drift down any further away from nature. We have to remember. I think that's really the only way that we are going to survive this whole thing. You know, I think before we had to survive like agriculturally, we had to eat. Now we have to survive like our souls need it. So I'm here to help you and me to walk this path together and create that ripple effect out into the world, calling everyone back to these old ways of knowing, of being, of living and seeing that really just bring everything to life. I saw this quote yesterday that enlightenment is intimacy with all things. And it almost brought me to tears because I really do feel that is true. Like feeling, seeing your energy, your being as manifested in a tree, a rock, a stone, a river. It's all the same. And I think the more of us that remember that, the better off we'll be. So happy Llama. See you in the next one. We'll be back next Sunday, Sacred Flow 60, just our regular vinyasa practice. And then we'll already be looking to another full moon, the full moon in August, the Sturgeon moon, and that is the full moon in Aquarius. So hold on to your butts. Have an amazing day. I love you. And I'll see you soon.